Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Patricia Meredith and I am an author of historical mystery. And today, because it is officially 10 days from the release day of my new book, yay, oh my gosh, 10 days out from releasing A Deed of Dreadful Note, which is my newest historical mystery. It features Anna Katharine Green. So it is set in 1872 New York City. This young woman is a forgotten female from history, and if you have followed my channel at all, you already know who Anna Katharine Green is. But I'm going to go a little bit deeper into who she is to me personally today. Very excited to take you along with me for that. So come along with me and find out why I consider Anna Katharine Green my sister from another century. So if you're new here to my channel, you probably don't know who Anna Katharine Green is. So let me just give you a brief overview and then we're going to dive in so that way I'm not repeating myself. But if you would like to know more, definitely check out my other videos about Anna Katharine Green and how she inspired the greats of the mystery genre. She is behind almost every trope and nuance and anything that you're like, oh yeah, they always have like a sidekick, okay? They always have an amateur detective who's working with a professional detective, a crime scene map in the front of the book, locked room mysteries, having a detective who continues through an entire series. She wrote one of the first American detectives. But what's important about her is not necessarily that she was the first in anything. It is how she brought everything together. Things that had been done before her by other authors. So you've got Edgar Allan Poe, you've got Emile Gaboriau, you've got Wilkie Collins, you've got all of these other authors who have written before her. However, she is the first female author of American detective fiction to pull it all together into a full-length novel and then to make it huge overnight. She was an overnight success when she published her first debut novel, The Leavenworth Case. Published in 1878, and overnight, she changed mystery fiction. So this woman is incredibly important. She was an Agatha Christie of her day, and she would go on to inspire Agatha Christie in many of her most well-known novels and characters, and so many other things. I will go more into that in another video, but right now what I really want to share with you is how discovering Anna Katharine Green and how much I had in common with her is partially why I have decided to write my next novel series about her, also because nobody has ever done it before. That's right, nobody has ever written a historical fiction starring Anna Katharine Green, okay? Nobody's ever written a historical mystery starring Anna Katharine Green, all right? There is only one printed biography out there about Anna Katharine Green, and that's the mother of detective fiction, which is this one right here, written by Patricia Maida. So this is actually an article that I posted as a blog post back in 2019 when I wrote the first draft of my novel that is now coming out. So that's right, it's taken me 4 years of research and writing in order to get this book to you, but it is so worth it. I am so excited to share this with you all. So let's dive into why Anna Katharine Green is my sister from another century. So first off, Anna Katharine Green was 32 years old when she got her first novel published. That was The Leavenworth Case in 1878. Now, I also turned 32 the Christmas that my first short story got published. So the very first thing that I ever got officially published out there, not including like magazine articles when I was 9 and sent them into the newspaper, that kind of thing, because believe me, I've known that I wanted to be a writer for that long. But this is the first official short story that I got published in a anthology, and it was a Christmas short story. It's the very first one in the book, actually. It's called Mary Did You Know? And if you haven't picked up a copy yet, I highly recommend that you pick up a copy because I was included with 5 other incredible authors. It's wonderful, inspirational stories set in Christmas time or have to do with Christmas time. My story is, of course, historical fiction, and it is about Mother Mary and baby Jesus. So definitely check that out. But like I said, my first thing ever published, I was 32, and so was Anna Katharine Green when she got her first full-length novel published. All right, so this second thing, although I haven't been able to track down the exact connection, we are probably related in a way. Anna Katharine Green, I'm not directly related to her. However, her stepmother, so her actual birth mother, died when Anna was 3 years old, and she left Anna and her three older siblings. She had an older sister, and then two older brothers, and then it was Anna. And so she was only 3 years old when her mother passed away. Well, years later, her father remarried to a wonderful, wonderful woman who became incredibly influential in Anna's life. And her name was Grace Hollister. Now, Hollister is a family name on my father's side. And so it's a name that goes all the way back through the generations. And part of me really, really wonders if somehow I am related to Grace Hollister, which would be really cool. It means I'm not actually related to Anna again, but maybe possibly related to her stepmother, who was a huge influence on her life. So, what are the chances, right? Another way that Anna and I are really similar is she moved a lot as a child. She actually moved upwards of 10 times that I can track so far before her first book was published. And even after that, she moved even more. And after she got married and everything, they moved a lot. So her life was full of changes. I myself have moved 18 times in my life so far. I had to sit down and calculate it and figure it out. Part of that was having parents in the military when I was a child, but then also we moved a lot even after my dad got out of the military. And after we got married, my husband and I have moved several times. I believe we're up to 8 times now. It might be 9 now with the move to Colorado Springs. So when I calculated it out, it was 18 times in my life I have moved. So believe me, I know what it's like to pick up and experience a lot of change. And frankly, I love it. But that's another way that Anna Katharine Green and I are similar. So this next one comes from a quote out of a book that I found from 1895. It was written by T. Fisher Unwin, and it's called Good Reading About Many Books, Mostly by Their Authors. And there's several different authors listed in there. One of them is Anna Katharine Green. And one of the things that he interviewed her saying, so this is something she actually said, was, I commenced to compose, that is, write little stories, almost as soon as I could read. It was so natural for me to do this that I supposed it an ordinary thing for children to amuse themselves in this way. What's fun is I, too, began creating stories from a very young age. My first handwritten, hand-bound book came into being at the age of 9. What's really fun also is this is also going to be true for my children. They have seen my husband and I publishing books, and they have gone on to write their own books as well. So it just continues on down the line. But that's another way that Anna Katharine Green and I are similar. Another way that Anna Katharine Green and I are similar is when we graduated from college. So she graduated from Ripley Female College in Poultney, Vermont with a BA, and she was 21 years old. I also graduated with a BA from Whitworth University in Spokane, Washington. So not the same college, but same age. I was also 21. She also notes that she left her family in New York to go to a college in another state. She talks about this in several different interviews and how important it was to her that she do that. I did the same thing. My family was currently living in Colorado, and I specifically chose to go to a Washington university because I wanted to be in a different state. And it has gone really well for me. That's where I ended up finding my husband. So it was a good move for me. And I'm so thankful for Spokane because I went to Whitworth University, that's why I fell in love with Spokane's history, and why I ended up writing the Spokane Clock Tower Mysteries. So if you haven't read any of my work, definitely check these out. This is the first 3 in that series, and then now we've got the Anna Katharine Green series, a whole new series. Another way that Anna Katharine Green and I are very similar is in our faith. She was a strong Christian raised by a family that mostly attended Presbyterian churches. I am also a Christ follower, and I believe that through Christ I can do all things, and she also believed that. In one book in particular, Anna was described as a deeply religious woman, and there are many that can testify to her practical charity and helpfulness. And that was in writing her first book, published in 1900. May this be said of me as well. In that same article, Anna was also quoted as talking about her writing process. And here's what she said. When she's producing a story, she devotes a major part of the day to the work, writing rapidly for several hours, after which she devotes some time to correction. In the evening, when the lamps have been lighted, she and her husband and the governess of their children gather about the table in her writing room. Mr. Rolfs reads and the others listen, until one of the three has a criticism to make. In the nature of things, the criticisms are oftenest made by the author herself, and she is constantly making notes of the way the story strikes her as the reading progresses. So my background is as an editor, and that means that I, too, am most often the one to find critiques in my writing, in my own writing, as I read it aloud to my family. At this point, I'm only reading to my husband because my kids are not old enough to listen to my stories. But I absolutely intend to do this with them in the future. And whenever I write a children's book, none of which have been published yet, but whenever I do read those aloud to my kids, and it's so much fun to share them with them. So my writing process is the same as hers in this, where I finish writing my first draft, and then I read it aloud. That's the first thing that I do, is read it aloud to my husband, and then we make critiques along the way and changes, and then it goes out to the next process. So, again, something similar. Also from that article, she says, it takes days to adjust herself to a new piece of work, but once she has begun, nothing can drive it out of her mind. This does not mean that everything also must give way to the story. Indeed, she often acts as hostess or as guest, and goes out to entertainments and social functions while she is writing a piece of fiction, the same as at other times. But whatever she does, she never lets go of the thread of the story, and thus, in a way, she almost leads a double existence from the beginning of the work to its finish. This is almost word for word the balance that I am currently struggling with to maintain between being a writer and a mother. And if you watched my video last week, that was all about balancing being a mom and an author. And it is possible, but it's hard to find that balance. How does one find time to live life when writing has a tendency to consume everything? I often do feel like I am living a double existence, because in my head are these characters telling me their stories, and I'm always looking for new ideas, and I'm always being inspired by things that are happening around me, by conversations, by people, by articles that I read. All of that goes into a huge list that I have of inspiring things, and then eventually it becomes a book. So once again, living a double existence just like Anna, where trying to balance my life and writing. And often they're just both happening at the same time.
Although she desperately wanted to be published and pursued being an author wholeheartedly throughout her life, she also was a devoted family woman, a loving wife, and mother of three. And like I just said, that's one of the things that I struggle with, is finding that balance between being a mom and an author. And so I can take heart from Anna and her example. She managed to get 36 books published, 32 of which were published after she was married and had given birth to her first child.
So, quoted in Good Reading About Many Books, Mostly by Their Authors, by T. Fisher Unwin again, she said, I always see the end. I plan my whole story before I put pen to paper, and this is the most fascinating part of the work. Otherwise, I could never work each part into its proper place and obtain a harmonious whole. So I also write backwards. So I come up with the ending, and then I go back to the beginning and try to write linearly, but I don't write linearly. I actually quilt it together. I outline my stories the same way, always starting at the end and then working backward, and I sprinkle in all the important facts, make sure that they're going to fit in the right places, and then once I have a cohesive outline, then I can write. And the reason I call it quilting is because I start with that outline, but then inevitably what ends up happening is I'll start writing, and I'll get to a scene that I'm like, nope, I need more research for this scene. And so then I just leave myself a little note and I move on. Or I'll come to a scene that I'm like, you know what, I'm just not interested in this right now. I would rather come back when I have a little bit more time to devote to this. I'm going to move on to another scene and I'll come back to this. And because I have an outline to follow, I can do that very easily. So I call it quilting because I end up kind of weaving it back together. But absolutely, just like Anna, I start at the end and then I have to make an entire plan of how everything's going to fit together before I can start writing. And finally, like I said, the only full-length published nonfiction biographical study about Anna Katharine Green was done by Patricia D. Maida. Patricia, it's even Patricia M. Oh my goodness. I mean, what are the chances that she would be the only other person in 89? She published this in 89, okay? That's only a few years after I was born. And she was already interested in her and writing a whole book about her. And here I am now in 2023 publishing the first historical fiction about her. I mean, what are the chances? It can't be coincidence. As Anna would write, speaking of the Leavenworth case, perhaps it is somewhat sensational, but I hope by characterization and earnestness to lift it to a higher ground. I, too, am hoping that my book, A Deed of Dreadful Note, will be lifted and will draw out Anna Katharine Green from history, that she will live again and you will be reintroduced to this incredible woman from history who was an Agatha Christie of her time, published 36 novels, and changed mystery fiction. And one of the most common things that she publishes in all of her articles, she'll repeat this over and over again. She often says, truth is stranger than fiction. And that is absolutely the basis of this entire book, is the idea that truth is stranger than fiction, that in those crevices of history, I have tried to weave back in Anna's own words from her articles and interviews, things that she said to her parents, things that she said to publishers, things that she wrote about her own writing, and things that she wrote in the Leavenworth case itself. It's all weaving together into A Deed of Dreadful Note, which releases in just 10 days. So join me in counting down 10 days on social media as we come to May 30th, the release of A Deed of Dreadful Note. Go ahead and push that pre-order button on whatever version you prefer. It will be available in ebook, print, and audiobook. Go ahead and start requesting it through your independent bookstore. Request it through your library. Request it wherever you get your books from. And let's bring Anna Katharine Green back into the limelight where she deserves to be. Be sure to check out my website to learn more about Anna Katharine Green and to find blogs and lots more information about her. Also check out all the other videos that I've done here on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button and the like button and you will learn way too much along with me down the rabbit hole of research as we uncover more about Anna Katharine Green. I hope I will see you at my live Q&A on release day. That's going to be May 30th. And I'll be there answering any questions you might have about Anna Katharine Green or my writing process, or why do I dress this way, or whatever you want to know. How do I make book earrings? Anything that you want to know. Join me on that Q&A day, and I will try to get all of your questions answered within a timely amount. So join me for that celebration. I look forward to seeing you there. Brew a pot of tea, bring a friend, and be sure to pick up A Deed of Dreadful Note. Available very, very soon. Here it comes. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good weekend.